O purblind race of miserable men! How many among us at this very hour do forge a lifelong trouble for ourselves by taking true for false or false for true? Here, through the feeble twilight of this world groping, how many, until we pass and reach that other where we see as we are seen. So fared it with Geraint, who, issuing forth that morning when they both had got to horse, perhaps because he loved her passionately, and felt that tempest brooding round his heart, which if he spoke at all would break perforce upon a head so dear in thunder, said, "Not at my side. I charge thee ride before, ever a good way on before. And this I charge thee on thy duty as a wife, whatever happens, not to speak to me, no, not a word." And Enid was aghast. And forth they rode, but scarce 3 paces on, when crying out, "Effeminate as I am, I will not fight my way with gilded arms. All shall be iron," he loosed a mighty purse hung at his belt, and hurled it toward the squire. So the last sight that Enid had of home was all the marble threshold flashing, strewn with gold and scattered coinage, and the squire chafing his shoulder. Then he cried again, "To the wilds!" And Enid, leading down the tracks through which he bade her lead him on, they passed the marches, and by bandit-haunted holds, grey swamps and pools, waste places of the hern, and wildernesses, perilous paths they rode. Round was their pace at first, but slackened soon. A stranger meeting them had surely thought, they rode so slowly and they looked so pale, that each had suffered some exceeding wrong, for he was ever saying to himself, "Oh, I that wasted time to tend upon her, to compass her with sweet observances, to dress her beautifully and keep her true." And there he broke the sentence in his heart abruptly, as a man upon his tongue may break it when his passion masters him. And she was ever praying the sweet heavens to save her dear lord whole from any wound. And ever in her mind she cast about for that unnoticed failing in herself, which made him look so cloudy and so cold, till the great plover's human whistle amazed her heart, and glancing round the waist she feared in every wavering break an ambuscade. Then thought again, "If there be such in me, I might amend it by the grace of heaven, if he would only speak and tell me of it." But when the 4th part of the day was gone, then Enid was aware of 3 tall knights on horseback, wholly armed, behind a rock in shadow, waiting for them, caitiffs all, and heard one crying to his fellow, "Look, here comes a laggard hanging down his head, who seems no bolder than a beaten hound. Come, we will slay him, and will have his horse and armour, and his damsel shall be ours." Then Enid pondered in her heart, and said, "I will go back a little to my lord, and I will tell him all their caitiff talk. For be he wroth even to slaying me, far liefer by his dear hand had I die, than that my lord should suffer loss or shame." Then she went back some paces of return, met his full frown timidly firm, and said, "My lord, I saw 3 bandits by the rock waiting to fall on you, and heard them boast that they would slay you and possess your horse and armour, and your damsel should be theirs." He made a wrathful answer, "Did I wish your warning or your silence? One command I laid upon you, not to speak to me, and thus ye keep it. Well then, look, for now, whether ye wish me victory or defeat, long for my life or hunger for my death, yourself shall see my vigour is not lost." Then Enid waited, pale and sorrowful, and down upon him bare the bandit 3, and at the midmost charging, Prince Geraint drave the long spear a cubit through his breast and out beyond, and then against his brace of comrades, each of whom had broken on him a lance that splintered like an icicle, swung from his brand a windy buffet out once, twice, to right, to left, and stunned the twain or slew them, and dismounting, like a man that skins the wild beast after slaying him, stripped from the 3 dead wolves of woman born the 3 gay suits of armour which they wore, and let the bodies lie, but bound the suits of armour on their horses, each on each, and tied the bridle reins of all the 3 together, and said to her, "Drive them on before you." And she drove them through the waste. He followed nearer. Ruth began to work against his anger in him, while he watched the being he loved best in all the world, with difficulty and mild obedience driving them on. He fain had spoken to her, and loosed in words of sudden fire the wrath and smouldered wrong that burnt him all within. But evermore it seemed an easier thing at once without remorse to strike her dead than to cry halt, and to her own bright face accuse her of the least immodesty. And thus tongue-tied it made him wroth the more, that she could speak, whom his own ear had heard call herself false. And suffering thus he made minutes an age. But in scarce longer time than at Caedmon the full-tided Usk, before he turned to fall seaward again, pauses, did Enid, keeping watch, behold in the first shallow shade of a deep wood, before a gloom of stubborn-shafted oaks, 3 other horsemen waiting, wholly armed, whereof one seemed far larger than her lord, and shook her pulses, crying, "Look, a prize! 3 horses and 3 goodly suits of arms, and all in charge of whom? A girl! Set on!" "Nay," said the second, "yonder comes a knight." The third, "A craven! How he hangs his head!" The giant answered merrily, "Yea, but one! Wait here, and when he passes, fall upon him." And Enid pondered in her heart, and said, "I will abide the coming of my lord, and I will tell him all their villainy. My lord is weary with the fight before, and they will fall upon him unawares. I needs must disobey him for his good. How should I dare obey him to his harm? Needs must I speak, and though he kill me for it, I save a life dearer to me than mine." And she abode his coming, and said to him with timid firmness, "Have I leave to speak?" He said, "Ye take it, speaking." And she spoke. "There lurk 3 villains yonder in the wood, and each of them is wholly armed, and one is larger limbed than you are, and they say that they will fall upon you while ye pass." To which he flung a wrathful answer back, "And if there were 100 in the wood, and every man were larger limbed than I, and all at once should sally out upon me, I swear it would not ruffle me so much as you that not obey me. Stand aside, and if I fall, cleave to the better man." And Enid stood aside to wait the event, not dare to watch the combat, only breathe, short fits of prayer at every stroke of breath, and he she dreaded most bare down upon him. Aimed at the helm, his lance erred, but Geraint's, a little in the late encounter strained, struck through the bulky bandit's corselet home, and then brake short, and down his enemy rolled, and there lay still. As he that tells the tale saw once a great piece of a promontory that had a sapling growing on it, slide from the long shore cliff's windy walls to the beach, and there lie still, and yet the sapling grew, so lay the man transfixed. His craven pair of comrades, making slowlier at the prince, when now they saw their bulwark fallen, stood, on whom the victor, to confound them more, spurred with his terrible war cry. For as one that listens near a torrent mountain brook, all through the crash of the near cataract, hears the drumming thunder of the huger fall at distance, with the soldiers wont to hear his voice in battle, and be kindled by it, and foemen scared, like that false pair who turned flying, but overtaken, died the death themselves had wrought on many an innocent. Thereon Geraint, dismounting, picked the lance that pleased him best, and drew from those dead wolves their 3 gay suits of armour, each from each, and bound them on their horses, each on each, and tied the bridle reins of all the 3 together, and said to her, "Drive them on before you." And she drove them through the wood. He followed nearer still. The pain she had to keep them in the wild ways of the wood, 2 sets of 3, laden with jingling arms together, served a little to disedge the sharpness of that pain about her heart. And they themselves, like creatures gently born but into bad hands fallen, and now so long by bandits groomed, pricked their light ears, and felt her low, firm voice and tender government. So through the green gloom of the wood they passed, and issuing under open heavens beheld a little town with towers upon a rock, and close beneath a meadow gem-like, chased in the brown wild, and mowers mowing in it. And down a rocky pathway from the place there came a fair-haired youth, that in his hand bare victual for the mowers. And Geraint had ruth again on Enid, looking pale. Then, moving downward to the meadow ground, he, when the fair-haired youth came by him, said, "Friend, let her eat, the damsel is so faint." "Yea, willingly," replied the youth, "and thou, my lord, eat also, though the fare is coarse, and only meat for mowers." Then set down his basket, and dismounting on the sward, they let the horses graze, and ate themselves. And Enid took a little delicately, less having stomach for it than desire to close with her lord's pleasure. But Geraint ate all the mowers' victual unawares, and when he found all empty was amazed, and, "Boy," he said, "I have eaten all, but take a horse and arms for guerdon, choose the best." He, reddening in extremity of delight, "My lord, you overpay me 50-fold." "Ye will be all the wealthier," cried the prince. "I take it as free gift then," said the boy, "not guerdon. For myself can easily, while your good damsel rests, return and fetch fresh victual for these mowers of our earl. For these are his, and all the field is his, and I myself am his. And I will tell him how great a man thou art. He loves to know when men of mark are in his territory, and he will have thee to his palace here, and serve thee costlier than with mowers' fare." Then said Geraint, "I wish no better fare. I never ate with angrier appetite than when I left your mowers dinnerless, and into no earl's palace will I go. I know, God knows, too much of palaces, and if he want me, let him come to me. But hire us some fair chamber for the night, and stalling for the horses, and return with victual for these men, and let us know." "Yea, my kind lord," said the glad youth, and went, held his head high, and thought himself a knight, and up the rocky pathway disappeared, leading the horse, and they were left alone. But when the prince had brought his errant eyes home from the rock, sideways he let them glance at Enid, where she drooped. His own false doom, that shadow of mistrust should never cross betwixt them, came upon him, and he sighed. Then with another humorous ruth remarked the lusty mowers labouring dinnerless, and watched the sun blaze on the turning scythe, and after nodded sleepily in the heat. But she, remembering her old ruined hall, and all the windy clamour of the doors about her hollow turret, plucked the grass there growing longest by the meadow's edge, and into many a listless annulet, now over, now beneath her marriage ring, wove and unwove it, till the boy returned and told them of a chamber, and they went. Where, after saying to her, "If ye will, call for the woman of the house," to which she answered, "Thanks, my lord," the two remained apart by all the chamber's width, and mute as creatures voiceless through the fault of birth, or two wild men, supporters of a shield, painted, who stare at open space, nor glance the one at other, parted by the shield. On a sudden, many a voice along the street, and heel against the pavement echoing, burst their drowse, and either started, while the door, pushed from without, drave backward to the wall, and midmost of a rout of roisterers, femininely fair and dissolutely pale, her suitor in old years before Geraint entered, the wild lord of the place, Limurs. He, moving up with pliant courtliness, greeted Geraint full face, but stealthily, in the mid-warmth of welcome and grasped hand, found Enid with the corner of his eye, and knew her sitting sad and solitary. Then cried Geraint for wine and goodly cheer to feed the sudden guest, and sumptuously, according to his fashion, bade the host call in what men soever were his friends, and feast with ease in honour of their earl, and care not for the cost is mine. And wine and food were brought, and Earl Lemures drank till he jested with all ease, and told free tales, and took the word, and played upon it, and made it of two colours. For his talk, when wine and free companions kindled him, was wont to glance and sparkle like a gem of 50 facets. Thus he moved the prince to laughter, and his comrades to applause. Then, when the prince was merry, asked Lemures, "Your leave, my lord, to cross the room and speak to your good damsel there, who sits apart and seems so lonely." "My free leave," he said. "Get her to speak, she doth not speak to me." Then rose Lemures, and looking at his feet like him who tries the bridge he fears may fail, crossed and came near, lifted adoring eyes, bowed at her side, and uttered whisperingly, "Enid, the pilot star of my lone life, Enid, my early and my only love, Enid, the loss of whom hath turned me wild, what chance is this? How is it I see you here? Ye are in my power at last, are in my power. Yet fear me not. I call mine own self wild, but keep a touch of sweet civility here in the heart of waste and wilderness. I thought but that your father came between, in former days you saw me favourably. And if it were so, do not keep it back. Make me a little happier. Let me know it. Owe you me nothing for a life half lost? Yea, yea, the whole dear debt of all you are. And Enid, you and he I see with joy. Ye sit apart, you do not speak to him. You come with no attendants, page or maid, to serve you. Doth he love you as of old? For call it lovers' quarrels, yet I know, though men may bicker with the things they love, they would not make them laughable in all eyes, not while they loved them. And your wretched dress, a wretched insult on you, dumbly speaks your story, that this man loves you no more. Your beauty is no beauty to him now. A common chance, right well I know it, palled, for I know men, nor will ye win him back, for the man's love once gone never returns. But here is one who loves you as of old, with more exceeding passion than of old. Good, speak the word. My followers ring him round, he sits unarmed. I hold a finger up, they understand. Nay, I do not mean blood, nor need ye look so scared at what I say. My malice is no deeper than a moat, no stronger than a wall. There is the keep. He shall not cross us more, speak but the word. Or speak it not, but then by him that made me the one true lover whom you ever owned, I will make use of all the power I have. Oh, pardon me, the madness of that hour when first I parted from thee moves me yet. At this the tender sound of his own voice and sweet self-pity, or the fancy of it, made his eye moist. But Enid feared his eyes, moist as they were, wine-heated from the feast, and answered with such craft as women use, guilty or guiltless, to stave off a chance that breaks upon them perilously, and said, "Oh, if you love me as in former years, and do not practice on me, come with morn, and snatch me from him as by violence. Leave me tonight. I'm weary to the death." Lo, at leave-taking, with his brandished plume brushing his instep, bowed the all-amorous earl. And the stout prince bade him aloud good night. He, moving homeward, babbled to his men how Enid never loved a man but him, nor cared a broken eggshell for her lord. But Enid, left alone with Prince Geraint, debating his command of silence given, and that she now perforce must violate it, held commune with herself, and while she held, he fell asleep. And Enid had no heart to wake him, but hung o'er him, wholly pleased to find him yet unwounded after fight, and hear him breathing low and equally. Anon she rose, and stepping lightly, heaped the pieces of his armour in one place, all to be there against a sudden need. Then dozed a while herself, but, overtoiled by that day's grief and travel, evermore seemed catching at a rootless thorn, and then went slipping down horrible precipices, and strongly striking out her limbs, awoke. Then thought she heard the wild earl at the door, with all his rout of random followers, sound on a dreadful trumpet summoning her, which was the red cock shouting to the light, as the grey dawn stole o'er the dewy world and glimmered on his armour in the room. And once again she rose to look at it, but touched it unawares. Jangling, the cask fell, and he started up and stared at her. Then, breaking his command of silence given, she told him all that Earl Glymours had said, except the passage that he loved her not, nor left untold the craft herself had used, but ended with apology so sweet, low-spoken, and of so few words, and seemed so justified by that necessity, that though he thought, was it for him she wept in Devon, he but gave a wrathful groan, saying, "Your sweet faces make good fellows fools and traitors. Call the host, and bid him bring charger and palfrey." So she glided out among the heavy breathings of the house, and like a household spirit at the walls beat till she woke the sleepers, and returned. Then, tending her rough lord, though all unasked, in silence, did him service as a squire, till issuing, armed, he found the host, and cried, "Thy reckoning, friend?" And ere he learnt it, "Take 5 horses and their armours." And the host, suddenly honest, answered in amaze, "My lord, I scarce have spent the worth of one." "Ye will be all the wealthier," said the prince. And then to Enid, "Forward! And today I charge you, Enid, more especially, what things soever ye may hear or see or fancy, though I count it of small use to charge you, that ye speak not, but obey." Enid answered, "Yea, my lord, I know your wish, and would obey. But riding first, I hear the violent threats you do not hear. I see the danger which you cannot see. Then not to give you warning, that seems hard, almost beyond me. Yet I would obey." "Yea, so," said he, "do it. Be not too wise, seeing that ye are wedded to a man, not all mismated with a yawning clown, but one with arms to guard his head and yours, with eyes to find you out however far, and ears to hear you even in his dreams." With that he turned, and looked as keenly at her as careful robins eye the delver's toil. And that within her which a wanton fool or hasted judger would have called her guilt made her cheek burn and either eyelid fall. And Geraint looked, and was not satisfied. Then forward by a way which, beaten broad, led from the territory of false Limurs to the waste earldom of another earl, Durham, whom his shaking vassals called the Bull, went Enid with her sullen follower on. Once she looked back, and when she saw him ride more near by many a rood than yestermorn, it well-nigh made her cheerful, till Geraint, waving an angry hand, as who should say, "Ye watch me," saddened all her heart again. But while the sun yet beat a dewy blade, the sound of many a heavily galloping hoof smote on her ear, and turning round she saw dust and the points of lances bicker in it. Then, not to disobey her lord's behest, and yet to give him warning, for he rode as if he heard not, moving back she held her finger up, and pointed to the dust. At which the warrior, in his obstinacy, because she kept the letter of his word, was in a manner pleased, and turning stood. And in a moment after, wild Glymours, borne on a black horse like a thunder cloud whose skirts are loosened by the breaking storm, half ridden off with by the thing he rode, and all in passion uttering a dry shriek, dashed on Geraint, who closed with him, and bore down by the length of lance and arm beyond the crupper, and so left him stunned or dead, and overthrew the next that followed him, and blindly rushed on all the right behind. But at the flash and motion of the man they vanished panic-stricken, like a shoal of darting fish, that on a summer morn adown the crystal dykes at Camelot come slipping o'er their shadows on the sand. But if a man who stands upon the brink but lift a shining hand against the sun, there is not left the twinkle of a fin betwixt the cressy islets white in flower. So, scared but at the motion of the man, fled all the boon companions of the Earl, and left him lying in the public way. So vanish friendships only made in wine. Then like a stormy sunlight smiled Geraint, who saw the chargers of the two that fell start from their fallen lords and wildly fly, mixed with the flyers. "Horse and man," he said, "all of one mind and all right honest friends, not a hoof left. And I, methinks, till now was honest, paid with horses and with arms. I cannot steal or plunder, no, nor beg. And so what say ye? Shall we strip him there, your lover? Has your palfrey heart enough to bear his armour? Shall we fast or dine? No? Then do thou, being right honest, pray that we may meet the horsemen of Earl Doom. I too would still be honest." Thus he said, and sadly gazing on her bridle reins, and answering not one word, she led the way. But as a man to whom a dreadful loss falls in a far land, and he knows it not, but coming back he learns it, and the loss so pains him that he sickens nigh to death, so fared it with Geraint, who, being pricked in combat with the followers of Lemures, bled underneath his armour secretly, and so rode on, nor told his gentle wife what ailed him, hardly knowing it himself, till his eye darkened and his helmet wagged, and at a sudden swerving of the road, though happily down on a bank of grass, the prince, without a word, from his horse fell. And Enid heard the clashing of his fall, suddenly came, and at his side, all pale, dismounting, loosed the fastenings of his arms, nor let her true hand falter, nor blue eye moisten, till she had lighted on his wound, and tearing off her veil of faded silk, had bared her forehead to the blistering sun, and swathed the hurt that drained her dear lord's life. Then, after all was done that hand could do, she rested, and her desolation came upon her, and she wept beside the way. And many passed, but none regarded her, for in that realm of lawless turbulence a woman weeping for her murdered mate was cared as much for as a summer's shower. One took him for a victim of Earl Durham, nor dared to waste a perilous pity on him. Another, hurrying past, a man-at-arms, rode on a mission to the bandit earl. Half whistling and half singing a coarse song, he drove the dust against her veilless eyes. Another, flying from the wrath of Durham, before an ever-fancied arrow, made the long way smoke beneath him in his fear, at which her palfrey, whinnying, lifted heel, and scoured into the coppices, and was lost, while the great charger stood, grieved like a man. But at the point of noon, the huge Earl Durham, broad-faced, with under fringe of russet beard, bound on a foray, rolling eyes of prey, came riding with 100 lances up. But ere he came, like one that hails a ship, cried out with a big voice, "What? Is he dead?" No, not dead," she answered in all haste. "Would some of your kind people take him up and bear him hence out of this cruel sun? Most sure am I, quite sure, he is not dead." Then said Earl Durham, "Well, if he be not dead, why wail ye for him thus? Ye seem a child, and be he dead, I count you for a fool. Your wailing will not quicken him. Dead or not, ye mar a comely face with idiot tears. Yet, since the face is comely, some of you here take him up and bear him to our hall. And if he live, we will have him of our band. And if he die, why, earth has earth enough to hide him. See ye take the charger too, a noble one. He spake and passed away, but left two brawny spearmen, who advanced, each growling like a dog, when his good bone seems to be plucked at by the village boys, who love to vex him eating, and he fears to lose his bone, and lays his foot upon it, gnawing and growling. So the ruffians growled, fearing to lose, and all for a dead man, their chance of booty from the morning's raid, yet raised and laid him on a litter bier, such as they brought upon their forays out for those that might be wounded, laid him on it all in the hollow of his shield, and took and bore him to the naked hall of Durm, his gentle charger following him unled, and cast him and the bier in which he lay down on an oaken settle in the hall, and then departed, hot in haste to join their luckier mates, but growling as before, and cursing their lost time, and the dead man, and their own earl, and their own souls, and her. They might as well have blessed her. She was deaf to blessing or to cursing, save from one. So for long hours sat Enid by her lord, there in the naked hall, propping his head and chafing his pale hands and calling to him, till at the last he wakened from his swoon, and found his own dear bride propping his head, and chafing his faint hands and calling to him, and felt the warm tears falling on his face, and said to his own heart, "She weeps for me," and yet lay still, and feigned himself as dead, that he might prove her to the uttermost, and say to his own heart, "She weeps for me." But in the falling afternoon returned the huge Earl Durm with plunder to the hall. His lusty spearmen followed him with noise, each hurling down a heap of things that rang against the pavement, cast his lance aside, and doffed his helm. And then there fluttered in, half bold, half frighted, with dilated eyes, a tribe of women, dressed in many hues, and mingled with the spearmen. And Earl Durm struck with his knife's haft hard against the board, and called for flesh and wine to feed his spears. And men brought in whole hogs and quarter beeves, and all the hall was dim with steam of flesh. And none spake word, but all sat down at once, and ate with tumult in the naked hall, feeding like horses when you hear them feed, till Enid shrank far back into herself, to shun the wild ways of the lawless tribe. But when Earl Doom had eaten all he would, he rolled his eyes about the hall, and found a damsel drooping in a corner of it. Then he remembered her, and how she wept, and out of her there came a power upon him. And rising on the sudden, he said, "Eat! I never yet beheld a thing so pale. God's curse, it makes me mad to see you weep. Eat! Look yourself. Good luck had your good man, for were I dead, who is it would weep for me? Sweet lady, never since I first drew breath have I beheld a lily like yourself. And so there lived some colour in your cheek, there is not one among my gentlewomen were fit to wear your slipper for a glove. But listen to me, and by me be ruled, and I will do the thing I have not done, for ye shall share my earldom with me, girl, and we will live like two birds in one nest, and I will fetch you forage from all fields, for I compel all creatures to my will." He spoke. The brawny spearman let his cheek bulge with the unswallowed piece, and turning stared, while some, whose souls the old serpent long had drawn down, as the worm draws in the withered leaf and makes it earth, hissed each at other's ear what shall not be recorded. Women they, women, or what had been those gracious things, but now desired the humbling of their best, yea, would have helped him to it, and all at once they hated her, who took no thought of them, but answered in low voice, her meek head yet drooping, "I pray you of your courtesy, he being as he is, to let me be." She spake so low he hardly heard her speak, but like a mighty patron, satisfied with what himself had done so graciously, assumed that she had thanked him, adding, "Yea, eat and be glad, for I account you mine." She answered meekly, "How should I be glad henceforth in all the world at anything, until my lord arise and look upon me?" Here the huge earl cried out upon her talk, as all but empty heart and weariness and sickly nothing, suddenly seized on her, and bare her by main violence to the board, and thrust the dish before her, crying, "Eat!" "No, no," said Enid, vexed, "I will not eat till yonder man upon the bier arise and eat with me." "Drink, then," he answered, "here!" and filled a horn with wine and held it to her. "Lo, I myself, when flushed with fight or hot, God's curse with anger, often I myself, before I well have drunken, scarce can eat. Drink, therefore, and the wine will change your will." "Not so," she cried. "By heaven, I will not drink till my dear lord arise, and bid me do it, and drink with me. And if he rise no more, I will not look at wine until I die." At this he turned all red, and paced his hall, now gnawed his under, now his upper lip, and coming up close to her, said at last, "Girl, for I see ye scorn my courtesies, take warning. Yonder man is surely dead, and I compel all creatures to my will. Not eat nor drink? And wherefore wail for one who put your beauty to this flout and scorn by dressing it in rags? Amazed am I, beholding how ye butt against my wish, that I forbear you thus. Cross me no more. At least put off to please me this poor gown, this silken rag, this beggar woman's weed. I love that beauty should go beautifully. For see ye not my gentlewomen here, how gay, how suited to the house of one who loves that beauty should go beautifully? Rise, therefore, robe yourself in this, obey!" He spoke, and one among his gentlewomen displayed a splendid silk of foreign loom, where like a shoaling sea the lovely blue played into green, and thicker down the front with jewels than the sward with drops of dew, when all night long a cloud clings to the hill, and with the dawn ascending lets the days strike where it clung. So thickly shone the gems. But Enid answered, harder to be moved than hardest tyrants in their day of power, with lifelong injuries burning unavenged, and now their hour has come. And Enid said, "In this poor gown my dear lord found me first, and loved me, serving in my father's hall. In this poor gown I rode with him to court, and there the queen arrayed me like the sun. In this poor gown he bade me clothe myself, when now we rode upon this fatal quest of honour, where no honour can be gained. And this poor gown I will not cast aside, until himself arise a living man and bid me cast it. I have griefs enough. Pray you, be gentle. Pray you, let me be. I never loved, can never love, but him. Yea, God, I pray you of your gentleness, he being as he is, to let me be." Then strode the brute earl up and down his hall, and took his russet beard between his teeth, last coming up quite close, and in his mood crying, "I count it of no more avail, dame, to be gentle than ungentle with you. Take my salute." Unknightly, with flat hand, however lightly, smote her on the cheek. Then Enid, in her utter helplessness, and since she thought he had not dared to do it, except he surely knew my lord was dead, sent forth a sudden sharp and bitter cry, as of a wild thing taken in the trap, which sees the trapper coming through the wood. This heard Geraint, and grasping at his sword, it lay beside him in the hollow shield, made but a single bound, and with a sweep of it shore through the swarthy neck, and like a ball the russet-bearded head rolled on the floor. So died Earl Doom, by him he counted dead. And all the men and women in the hall rose when they saw the dead man rise, and fled, yelling as from a spectre, and the two were left alone together. And he said, "Enid, I have used you worse than that dead man, done you more wrong. We both have undergone that trouble which has left me thrice your own. Henceforward I will rather die than doubt, and here I lay this penance on myself. Not though mine own ears heard you yestermorn, you thought me sleeping, but I heard you say, that you were no true wife. I swear I will not ask your meaning in it. I do believe yourself against yourself, and will henceforward rather die than doubt. And Enid could not say one tender word. She felt so blunt and stupid at the heart. She only prayed him, "Fly, they will return and slay you. Fly, your charger is without, my palfrey lost." "Then, Enid, shall you ride behind me?" "Yea," said Enid, "let us go." And moving out, they found the stately horse, who now no more a vassal to the thief, but free to stretch his limbs in lawful fight, neighed with all gladness as they came, and stooped with a low whinny toward the pair. And she kissed the white star upon his noble front, glad also. Then Geraint upon the horse mounted, and reached a hand, and on his foot she set her own, and climbed. He turned his face, and kissed her climbing, and she cast her arms about him, and at once they rode away. And never yet, since high in paradise o'er the 4 rivers the first roses blew, came purer pleasure unto mortal kind than lived through her who in that perilous hour put hand to hand beneath her husband's heart, and felt him hers again. She did not weep, but o'er her meek eyes came a happy mist like that which kept the heart of Eden green before the useful trouble of the rain. Yet not so misty were her meek blue eyes, as not to see before them on the path, right in the gateway of the bandit hold, a knight of Arthur's court, who laid his lance in rest, and made as if to fall upon him. Then, fearing for his hurt and loss of blood, she, with her mind all full of what had chanced, shrieked to the stranger, "Slay not a dead man!" "The voice of Enid," said the knight. But she, beholding it was Edern, son of Nudd, was moved so much the more, and shrieked again, "O cousin, slay not him who gave you life!" And Edern, moving frankly forward, spake, "My lord Geraint, I greet you with all love. I took you for a bandit knight of Durham, and fear not, Enid, I should fall upon him, who love you, prince, with something of the love wherewith we love the heaven that chastens us. For once, when I was up so high in pride that I was halfway down the slope to hell, by overthrowing me, you threw me higher. Now, made a knight of Arthur's Table Round, and since I knew this earl when I myself was half a bandit in my lawless hour, I come the mouthpiece of our king to Durham. The king is close behind me, bidding him disband himself and scatter all his powers. Submit and hear the judgment of the king." "He hears the judgment of the King of Kings," cried the wan prince. "And lo, the powers of doom are scattered." And he pointed to the field, where, huddled here and there on mound and knoll, were men and women staring and aghast, while some yet fled. And then he plainly are told how the huge earl lay slain within his hall. But when the knight besought him, "Follow me, prince, to the camp, and in the king's own ears speak what has chanced. Ye surely have endured strange chances here alone." That other flushed, and hung his head, and halted in reply, fearing the mild face of the blameless king, and after madness acted, question asked, till Edern crying, "If ye will not go to Arthur, then will Arthur come to you." "Enough," he said, "I follow." And they went. But Enid in their going had 2 fears, one from the bandits scattered in the field, and one from Edern. Every now and then, when Edern reined his charger at her side, she shrank a little. In a hollow land from which old fires have broken, men may fear fresh fire and ruin. He, perceiving, said, "Fair and dear cousin, you that most had cause to fear me, fear no longer. I am changed. Yourself were first the blameless cause to make my nature's prideful sparkle in the blood break into furious flame. Being repulsed by Inyol and yourself, I schemed and wrought until I overturned him. Then set up, with one main purpose ever at my heart, my haughty jousts, and took a paramour, did her mock honour as the fairest fair, and toppling over all antagonism, so waxed in pride that I believed myself unconquerable, for I was well nigh mad. And but for my main purpose in these jousts, I should have slain your father, seized yourself. I lived in hope that some time you would come to these my lists with him whom best you loved. And there, poor cousin, with your meek blue eyes, the truest eyes that ever answered heaven, behold me overturn and trample on him. Then, had you cried, or knelt, or prayed to me, I should not less have killed him. And you came, but once you came, and with your own true eyes beheld the man you loved, I speak as one speaks of a service done him, overthrow my proud self and my purpose 3 years old, and set his foot upon me, and give me life. There was I broken down, there was I saved, though thence I rode all shamed, hating the life he gave me, meaning to be rid of it. And all the penance the queen laid upon me was but to rest a while within her court, where first, as sullen as a beast new caged, and waiting to be treated like a wolf, because I knew my deeds were known, I found, instead of scornful pity or pure scorn, such fine reserve and noble reticence, manners so kind, yet stately, such a grace of tenderest courtesy, that I began to glance behind me at my former life, and find that it had been the wolf's indeed. And oft I talked with Dubric, the high saint, who with mild heat of holy oratory subdued me somewhat to that gentleness which, when it weds with manhood, makes a man. And you were often there about the queen, but saw me not, or marked not if you saw. Nor did I care or dare to speak with you, but kept myself aloof till I was changed. And fear not, cousin, I am changed indeed. He spoke, and Enid easily believed, like simple noble natures, credulous of what they long for, good in friend or foe, they're most in those who most have done them ill. And when they reached the camp, the king himself advanced to greet them, and beholding her, though pale yet happy, asked her not a word, but went apart with Eddern, whom he held in converse for a little, and returned, and gravely smiling, lifted her from horse, and kissed her with all pureness, brother-like, and showed an empty tent allotted her, and glancing for a minute till he saw her pass into it, turned to the prince and said, Prince, when of late ye prayed me for my leave to move to your own land, and there defend your marches, I was pricked with some reproof, as one that let foul wrongs stagnate and be, by having looked too much through alien eyes, and wrought too long with delegated hands, not used mine own. But now behold me come to cleanse this common sewer of all my realm, with Eddern and with others. Have ye looked at Eddern? Have ye seen how nobly changed? This work of his is great and wonderful. His very face with change of heart is changed. The world will not believe a man repents, and this wise world of ours is mainly right. Full seldom doth a man repent, or use both grace and will to pick the vicious quitch of blood and custom wholly out of him, and make all clean, and plant himself afresh. Eddern has done it weeding all his heart, as I will weed this land before I go. I therefore made him of our table round, not rashly, but have proved him every way one of our noblest, our most valorous, sanest, and most obedient. And indeed this work of Eddern, wrought upon himself after a life of violence, seems to me 1,000-fold more great and wonderful than if some knight of mine, risking his life, my subject with my subjects under him, should make an onslaught single on a realm of robbers, though he slew them one by one, and were himself nigh wounded to the death. So spake the king. Low bowed the prince, and felt his work was neither great nor wonderful, and passed to Enid's tent. And thither came the king's own leech to look unto his hurt, and Enid tended on him there, and there her constant motion round him, and the breath of her sweet tendance hovering over him, filled all the genial courses of his blood with deeper and with ever deeper love, as the southwest that blowing Bala lake fills all the sacred Dee. So passed the days. But while Geraint lay healing of his hurt, the blameless king went forth and cast his eyes on each of all whom Eutha left in charge long since to guard the justice of the king. He looked and found them wanting, and as now men weed the white horse on the Berkshire hills to keep him bright and clean as heretofore, he rooted out the slothful officer or guilty, which for bribe had winked at wrong, and in their chairs set up a stronger race with hearts and hands, and sent 1,000 men to till the wastes, and moving everywhere cleared the dark places and let in the law, and broke the banded holds and cleansed the land. Then, when Geraint was whole again, they passed with Arthur to Caerleon upon Usk. There the great queen once more embraced her friend, and clothed her in apparel like the day. And though Geraint could never take again that comfort from their converse which he took before the queen's fair name was breathed upon, he rested well content that all was well. Thence, after tarrying for a space, they rode, and 50 knights rode with them, to the shores of Severn, and they passed to their own land. And there he kept the justice of the king so vigorously yet mildly, that all hearts applauded, and the spiteful whisper died. And being ever foremost in the chase, and victor at the tilt and tournament, they called him the great prince and man of men. But Enid, whom her ladies loved to call Enid the Fair, a grateful people named Enid the Good. And in their halls arose the cry of children, Enid's and Geraint's of times to be. Nor did he doubt her more, but rested in her fealty, till he crowned a happy life with a fair death, and fell against the heathen of the northern sea in battle, fighting for the blameless king.